Hi. Hope you had a good reprieve from our online discussions, because this week we get back into it. 2 weeks ago, when we were residency, we began thinking about theology, and I suggested that anyone who thinks about their faith, who seeks to understand the world through the lens of that faith, and who acts in accordance with that understanding is doing theology. And we also introduced a particular approach to theology called liberation theology, which starts with the experiences of the poor and oppressed, and who are believed to be the focus of God's special, though not exclusive, concern. This is what is referred to as God's preferential option for the poor. Well, this week we begin looking more closely at some basic doctrines and beliefs, and how we can see those beliefs, many of which we have been taught and inherited from our own church and family backgrounds, how we can see those beliefs from a broader, more holistic perspective. This week we begin with the concept of salvation, which in most Protestant and Catholic churches is primarily interpreted as being mediated through a personal relationship with God through Christ and a participation in the rituals of the church. Now, I don't negate the importance of these things, but this view ignores the liberation side of Jesus' message, that God is concerned for the whole person, body, mind, and spirit. You see, to a certain degree, we've been sold a bill of goods in many of our churches, where we've been forced to make a choice. Either we follow the spiritual message of Jesus, that is, we have a personal relationship with God through Christ, or we follow the social gospel, that we go out and work for building the kingdom of God in our time. What I want to say is we don't have to make that choice between the spiritual and social gospel. The gospel is both. Furthermore, when we hold the personal and social, the salvation and liberation sides of the gospel as one and the same thing, it opens our minds to think in new and holistic ways about how God is calling us to live and act in the world. This week we consider this message of salvation and liberation in light of the current immigration crisis. You may remember in the summer of 2014, there were thousands of children from Honduras and Guatemala who came to the United States-Mexico border in search of asylum because they were escaping violence in their own countries, primarily due to gangs. And they were met at the border and then sent back to their impoverished, violent communities. Now, I have included today a story of a young boy whose body was found decomposed in the desert. And we have to ask ourselves, in light of the book of Exodus, in light of the message of liberation, in light of the fact that Christ came with a message of salvation and liberation, how are we today as Christians to respond? My intent in this exercise and in the following weeks is that we make our theology not just a matter of personal reflection, but that we use our theology as a way to grapple with real life issues. It won't be simple, and very often it could be confusing and messy. But often that is where Jesus and the Bible can most often be found. We're going to start this week by discussing in small groups, and I look forward to learning with you and interacting with you on this important issue.